Have you ever thought to yourself after listening to this podcast, why didn't Derek ask this question? Or why didn't he ask that question? I know I certainly have. Well, you get the chance to do that if you sign up for my Patreon at patreon.com/DDiamondPodcast. You get the chance to ask guests of the show a question. If you're a fan of the top 5 list, you get the chance to vote on what the topic will be. You also get early access to episodes, accessibility to my film scripts, and so much more. And you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/DDiamondPodcast. And we want to thank our Patreon, Tim Spivey. Thank you so much for your continued contributions to the podcast. And now, on with the show. Welcome to the Derek Diamond Experience podcast, where every week I take a look inside the world of film and television with those who have lived it and experienced it. I am your host, Derek Diamond, and this first portion of the show is a little bit of an impromptu live show. As I'm doing this, the 2021 Academy Awards have just ended about 5 to 10 minutes ago. Originally, I was just going to pre-record this and package it with this week's show, but the ending left some strong opinions in this household and with myself, obviously. But we'll get to that here in just a bit. So for those who are listening on the download version, later on you'll be hearing my conversation with filmmaker Nick Smith, who actually had his latest short film, Ask Astrid, accepted into the Pensacon Short Film Festival. And I had the pleasure of working on that film. So we'll be chatting about that a little bit later on in the show. But for those who are watching live, highly recommend, if you want to throw in your thoughts on the Oscars, definitely do so, and I will read them on the show. I'm not really going to go through every award chronologically, but I wanted to give my thoughts on, one, the production of the ceremony, because it was very different than we've seen in years past, and we knew it was going to be different due to the pandemic and everything, but I've got some mixed thoughts on that. But I did want to hit on some of the big awards. Some I really liked, some I did not, but we'll get into that. And I see we've got several people watching, so thank you guys for joining me for this impromptu live portion. So let's just dive right in. This just happened. First of all, I don't think I've ever seen an Academy Award end with an award that's not Best Picture, because it's always, they announce it, everyone who worked on the film that is at the ceremony comes up, they give a little speech, and that's how you end things. So when they did that before Best Actor and Actress, I thought that was a little bit of a head scratcher, if you will, and they even did Best Director earlier than usual. So that was very different as well. And then Frances McDormand won Best Actress for Nomadland, which I think is of surprise to no one. Nomadland did very well at this year's awards. I still haven't had the chance to see the movie yet, but I've heard good things for the most part, those who I know that have watched it. So we get to the end, and we get to Best Actor. And the nominees were, and hopefully I get all these names right, and I apologize if I don't, Riz Ahmed from Sound of Metal, the late Chadwick Boseman from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, who was the odds-on favorite to win. I think every prediction that I looked at, whether it was website or YouTube video, had him as the winner. And then you had Anthony Hopkins from The Father, Gary Oldman from Mank, and Steven Yeun from Minari. And Anthony Hopkins won. And Samantha and I were just sitting there, both our mouths were just fully open, jaws on the floor, could not believe what had happened. And it wasn't just that, but they just kind of ended the show, and I don't know if it was because they were running late, but it was pretty much, they're like, oh, Anthony Hopkins won, we want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. I don't get it. And granted, I haven't seen either movie. I haven't seen Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I haven't seen The Father. And it's no knock to Anthony Hopkins, because I think he's a wonderful actor. I've enjoyed him in everything that I've seen him in. But I don't know, maybe it's a misinformed opinion, but I don't know if that's valid. And I mean, it's what I didn't like about it was that they were almost leading up to this being the end of the show where Chadwick Boseman was going to win and it would be this big emotional moment. And then he didn't. And the show just kind of ended. And I did not like that. I'll be completely honest. I think that sucked. I did not like that whatsoever. But I don't know. I have mixed feelings on the Oscars. And I mentioned this on last week's show. I didn't have very high expectations going in because I feel like, especially the last few years, the Oscars haven't really been catering to someone like me who has, I won't say peculiar taste, but I like a wide range of movies. Don't get me wrong. I like indie films. I like good emotional dramas, but I also like the fun summer blockbuster movies. And growing up, I felt like there was at least a couple of films, whether it was for Best Picture or it might have been one of the actors or actresses up for an award, that I had some type of an investment in, and I felt like I needed to watch to see if this person who I was rooting for or this movie that I was rooting for would win. And this year, I just didn't have that, if I'm being completely honest. And I will say this, as far as I want to dive into the production a little bit, because it was definitely different. It was filmed at Union Station in Los Angeles. I didn't hate the setup. I actually kind of liked it. It was something different, and it was smaller, which I was expecting. They did go to the inside of the Dolby Theater with Bryan Cranston for a segment, which I thought was really cool. But I don't know, like I love the beginning of it with, like the opening credits and everything, almost like it was a movie. That I actually enjoyed, but I don't know, there was something a little off about this year's Oscars. And I had heard this on a podcast earlier today. Maybe they shouldn't have done a traditional Oscars ceremony this year. Maybe what they should have done, and again, this would be a little out there, but I think what they should have done was you get all your A-list celebrities, your directors, everyone all together, and you do a good old-fashioned telethon with all the money going to those who have been affected by COVID, whether it's, indie filmmakers or, filmmakers who aren't A-listers, who are out of work, who are struggling, with healthcare workers, teachers, so many careers that have been affected by this virus over the last 12 months. I think that would have been really cool to do. You could have done like a 6-hour telethon, and whatever money you raise, it goes towards that cause. I think that would have been great, and I think it would have showed a very powerful display of unity, I guess is what I would call it. But, unfortunately that didn't happen. And I'm not trying to knock those who won the awards tonight, because I'm sure that they're extremely happy. Like Daniel Kaluuya, who won Best Supporting Actor for Judas and the Black Messiah. I was rooting for him to win that award. I think he absolutely deserved it. I was a little surprised that Trial of the Chicago 7 laid a goose egg through the entire Oscars. That was one of the few Oscar-nominated films that I actually watched. But it didn't get anything. But I'll go through some of the results real quick. So we started off with Best Original and Adapted Screenplays. Best Original Screenplay nominees were Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and Trial of the Chicago 7. I had picked Chicago 7 to win that one, but Promising Young Woman won that. And then The Father won Best Adapted Screenplay, which I think that was one that everyone was expecting Nomadland to win. Like, pretty much if it was nominated for something, people thought it was going to win. As I mentioned, Daniel Kaluuya won Best Actor in a Supporting Role, which I think he absolutely deserved. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom won Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and also won Best Costume Design. Chloe Chow won Best Director for Nomadland, which I think everybody was expecting. And what's actually cool is that she's going to be directing one of the next big Marvel films, Eternals, that's coming out. I believe it's coming out later this year. I know the schedule with Marvel films has been a little wonky. I'll actually Google that real quick because we are live. Let's see, Eternals release date, November 5th. Yeah, so that does come out later this year. And again, if you're watching live, definitely throw in your thoughts on the Academy Awards, and I will read them on the show. I'm very curious to get everyone's thoughts on that, because I haven't checked Twitter since the ceremony ended, but I know that people had mixed feelings about the overall ceremony, as I do as well. Kind of going back to the awards here a bit. Let's see. Oh, Soul won Best Animated Feature, which I loved. Soul was actually my favorite movie of 2020. I think it did a great job of, in a way, explaining through a family-friendly film the stages of life and really how important life is, and had so many emotional beats that relate to so many different people in so many different situations. So I was very happy that Soul won. Let's see. Tenet won Best Visual Effects. Oh, I've got to talk about this. I believe her name was Young Yoo-jung, who won Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Minari. Watching her geek out over meeting Brad Pitt was one of the coolest moments of the entire ceremony, because you could tell how grateful she was to win that award, and she just came off so likable. And then after she did her speech, watching Brad Pitt walk her to the backstage area, and she was just, you could tell she was starstruck. And in a way, you can't really blame her. I mean, who knows, like if I were in that position, I couldn't say that I wouldn't react that way to an extent. So that was one of the highlights of the entire night. That and seeing Glenn Close dance to Debut was something I never thought I would see in my entire lifetime. So I got to talk about that segment real quick. I liked it in theory, but the execution was very awkward because it was like no one really knew how to react to it. They were doing Oscar trivia where the DJ would play a song and the contestant had to guess if it was an Oscar winner, an Oscar nomination, or neither. And the last person that participated in the trivia was Glenn Close, and they played Debut, and she knew what it was, and she even knew how to do the dance, and that popped the entire room. Otherwise, everybody was just kind of sitting there like, I don't really know how to react to this. It was very awkward in the beginning, but that was something that I never thought I would see, but it was hilarious. I loved it. I thought it was great. Kind of going back to the awards here, Mank won Best Cinematography, and I mean, I get it. I mean, this award here has all the Academy Award nominated films that I've actually seen: Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Trial of Chicago 7, Nomadland, and News of the World were also nominated. Mank is a very interesting movie to me because, like, I like when Hollywood tries to recreate old Hollywood, and I thought even the black and white visual and the way that the film was shot was like an old film from like the 40s or the 50s, like the what they call the golden age of film, I guess you would call it, or the film from back then. And I thought it was kind of cool. I mean, was it my favorite of the Oscar nominated films that I've seen? No, but I enjoyed what they tried to do with Mank and recreating old Hollywood. Let's see. Sound of Metal won Best Film Editing, which that was presented by Harrison Ford. And don't get me wrong, I love Harrison Ford, but I feel like he's been in a bad mood for like the last 30 years, and it shows. But I love him anyway. Let's see. Going back, Soul won Best Original Score. Best Original Song was Fight for You from Judas and the Black Messiah. And then Nomadland won Best Picture. Frances McDormand won Best Actress in a Leading Role for Nomadland, which her, if you want to call it an acceptance speech, was very strange, to say the least, because she compared her work to a sword and then just kind of left. And I was like, well, all right, I don't know if that's her personality. I don't know if maybe she just got too nervous and didn't really know what to say, couldn't put her words together. I don't know. But it was very strange. And then it ended with Best Actor in a Leading Role, which, as I mentioned, was Anthony Hopkins. I cannot believe that they ended the Academy Awards with that. You, in a way, set it up for Chadwick Boseman to win, and then he didn't. And I just thought that was wrong. You should have just, if that were the case, it should have just ended with Best Picture like the Academy Awards has for as long as I can remember. So those were most of the winners for the Academy Awards this year. I don't want to say I hated it, because I didn't hate all of it. I thought, given what they did, I appreciate them trying to do something different. But it was even the little nuances of, like whenever they were showing the nominees for, like Best Actor or Actress in a Supporting Role, or, I don't think they actually did, now that I can think about it. They didn't really show too many movie clips from the nominated films, which I thought was kind of weird. Like with the Best Actor and Actress, they just cut to shots of the nominees sitting in the crowd, and whoever was the host of that segment would say a little something about them and then move on to the next person. Like I would have liked to have seen a little bit of the films, because especially with this year, I don't know too many people that have seen too many of these movies. And I just think that could have benefited a little bit from that happening. I liked that, as I mentioned, I liked the beginning of almost like a cinematic style intro of, like the credits popping up on screen and everything. Some of those things I appreciated, but I assume that it will be back in the Dolby Theater in 2022. And hopefully it will be. But I think they got to keep tweaking it. I mentioned last week, I think they should add new awards like best first time director for a feature film. Maybe look at some other awards that might be appealing to what I'd call casual moviegoers, and not just, the art house independent dramatic film fan. They got to do something. But I liked some of the Oscars this year, and some of it I didn't like. I can't get over that ending. I cannot believe that they actually did that. And Christian Jones wrote on my comment when I posted earlier, what was that trivia bit? I liked it in theory, but it wasn't executed very well. Minus the ending. Let's see. We got Josh Shinnework and Donna Kirby actually in the chat. Josh says, I thought it was a little more predictable for winners this year than other years. I feel like they didn't put as much effort into production this year, which I understand why, but the lack of music and jokes were missed. And I agree they should have skipped this year. It didn't feel like a normal Oscar night. Several awkward moments, and you could see it on several faces. And Donna wrote, thought Chadwick was a slam dunk. That was the one I was honestly, other than Nomadland winning Best Picture and Chloe Zhao winning Best Director, like those two plus Chadwick were like my slam dunk predictions. Like I thought there's no way that these two will not win. No possible way. But I don't know. And maybe it's like the raw emotion of it, because usually with these shows, I like to wait a couple of days and then simmer on what happened and kind of get my thoughts together. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to just dive into a live show and, kind of rant about the Oscars a little bit, because, I even did it last week. I said that I wasn't as excited for the Oscars this year, and it felt very different in the sense that it was a smaller scale, it was in a smaller room, and it didn't have that extravagant feel to me that we've come to expect from the Oscars. I mean, yeah, you had the outfits that, like all the women wearing the fancy dresses and everything, but it didn't have that same feel. And I didn't watch any of the pre-show, so I don't know if they did any of the traditional, red carpet interview segments and everything like that you come to expect. But I'm kind of speechless at this whole ending with not giving the Best Actor award to Chadwick Boseman. If I were his family, I'd be really upset right now. I'm not a member of his family, and I'm upset for them. I'm upset for him, God rest his soul. And by the way, I did think the in memoriam thing that they did was really cool, and you could see a wide shot of the entire room that had almost like torches or candles at each table, and all the lights were off except for those. I thought that was really cool. That's something that I won't say I look forward to, because that sounds kind of morbid, but seeing how they honor the members of the film community who have passed away throughout the last 12 months leading up to that year's Oscars. But hopefully for next year, things will get back to normal. A lot of movies that were supposed to come out last year and even early this year that were pushed back, we'll finally get to see them. I'm hoping that you bring a little bit of that type of an elegant appeal with the Oscars, while also, I don't know, I'll have to really think on it, because I've even been thinking about it over the last couple of days of how I would make the Oscars better. And maybe that's something that I do for this time next year, or hopefully it'll be back in February like it normally is. But maybe do a show and bring a couple of people on and we try and fix the Oscars, because I really miss looking forward to the Oscars every year. So those are my overall raw emotional thoughts on the Academy Awards. There were parts of it that I thought were cool. Like the trivia idea, like I mentioned, was cool in theory, but it just wasn't executed very well, and it was just very awkward. And I also didn't like that it was late in the Oscar show. I think it would have benefited from maybe being around the halfway point, maybe a little bit before. I thought the placement and the delivery of it was just not good. It led to the Glenn Close moment, but that was really about it. There were a couple of cool speeches, but the ending, like if I were to give this show a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, had Chadwick Boseman won, I probably would have given it like a 6.5. But with that, I got to give it I'd say like a 4.5 or a 5. And Josh, yeah, I agree. I would love to see more crew members get recognition in the Oscars. I absolutely agree with that, because I say this ad nauseum on this show with people that I interview. Filmmaking is so dependent on the collaboration and having a strong crew. We have all these famous directors and actors, but it takes a village to make a movie. And I agree, some of the village citizens who don't get the recognition they deserve absolutely need to. So, yeah, those are my overall thoughts on the 2021 Academy Awards. Thank you guys for joining me for this impromptu live show. If you're listening to it on the download, thank you for that as well. And speaking of download, Coming up next is my fantastic conversation with local filmmaker and someone who I consider a friend, Mr. Nick Smith. He has been making films for a long time, and he was gracious enough years ago to help me out with the Parker syndrome. I didn't really know him that well. I don't know if I had even met him before then. Like, I knew of him, but I don't think he and I had actually met at that point. And he had volunteered to come over to my house and do grip work. He helped Kevin Almodovar, the director of photography, set up lights. And he created this short film, and we filmed it last August, called Ask Astrid. And he reached out and asked if I'd be willing to help. And I told him absolutely, because I think with anything, if someone helps you, then you should definitely help them. So I was happy to help him out with this project. I think it turned out great. And the cool thing is that it was actually accepted into the short film festival here at Pensacon that will be coming up here in just a few weeks. And this is the official kickoff for Pensacon month here on the show. For the next few weeks, every guest that I have will have something to do with Pensacon, whether it's celebrity guest or filmmaker who will be a part of the film festival. Welcome back to the Derek Diamond Experience podcast, and I am happy to welcome back filmmaker Nick Smith to the show. Nick, how are you, sir?
I am great, thank you. How are you, Derek?
Doing fantastic. We've been catching up the last few minutes before we started recording, because I don't think we've really talked since we filmed Ask Astrid back in, what was it, August?
That's right, yeah. Feels like a long time ago, but not that bad.
Yeah, it's 2020 was a very odd year, because usually time flies by. At least I've noticed it as I've gotten older. Time flies by very quickly. It seems like pre-COVID 2020 was a lifetime ago. And from like March to July was just a crawl. Like, it seemed like it was never going to end. And then I think as we got used to everything, time kind of picked back up. So on one hand, it seems like yesterday that we were filming Astrid.
It does. My theory with the time thing is, as you get older, a week or a month is a smaller portion of your life. So it goes by faster. When you're 1 year old, a month is like 1/12 of your life. But now a month isn't that much of my life,
Yeah, it's crazy because we're already in April. So like a quarter of the year's already over.
How did that happen?
It's absolutely insane. So I wanted to have you back on the show to talk about Ask Astrid, your latest short, which was accepted into the Pensacon Short Film Festival. So congratulations for that. So how did you come up with the idea for this film? And we'll get into like the on-set experience and kind of having to work around the COVID issues in a bit. But how did you conceive the idea for this story?
The story, I kind of started percolating it a few years ago, and it really came off the back of comments I heard from people where they'd mentioned something they wanted to buy or something they needed for the home, and then it would pop up on their Facebook feed or their internet banner, or they get an email saying, "Hey, buy these shoes," and they were joking about it. But there is also an insidious part of that too. Was Alexa or Google Home or something listening to us talking about our preferences? And of course, we put our preferences out there on social media. We talk about the things that we like, we share interests with friends, and advertisers do pick up on that. But a machine listening to you in the home and us allowing the machine to listen to us fascinated me. So I wanted to turn that idea into a feature film, maybe something like a Hitchcock film where someone is listening in using a device and they hear about a crime and then they have to solve the crime.
I like that. No, it's interesting because I've always been attracted to sci-fi films from an early age, from watching Star Wars, some of the original Star Trek films. So anything that has a little bit of a sci-fi or kind of technology piece has always fascinated me. So I know when you would ask if I was interested in helping out and you sent me a copy of the script and I read it, I was like, this is really cool because it even kind of taps into what's going on, like you mentioned with, I might be talking with somebody about, oh, I saw this really cool camera online. I'd love to get it. And then I scroll through Facebook, go to B&H Photo and buy this new Canon camera. I'm like, wait a minute. Is this phone listening to me? So I was, drawn to the plot from the very start.
Yeah, I was going to say actually, Star Wars was a big influence when I was a nipper. I was very small when it came out, and it was how they it was a great film, but also the way they marketed it was very important. You had the making of, you had articles in the Star Wars Weekly, and you had very much a behind the scenes look at the film that helped to sell it, and that really inspired me as a kid. So when I knew Pensacon was looking for fantasy, horror, or sci-fi short films, I thought, I want to make something specifically to enter this festival. And, sci-fi seemed a good fit. I had the idea for Astrid already. So that was the reasoning behind that. But also, it's scary. So I get to say something and also, tell a fun little story.
Well, I think what's great about the film, too, is it tells a broader picture of the Astrid machine in people's homes, essentially listening in on what's going on.
Right.
But what I also like is that it's a very intimate story in a way, because you have essentially one actress who is communicating with Astrid through the whole film, and you even get a little glimpses into her life as well. So I love that you could tell a big picture story while also having an intimate setting and an intimate story in it as well.
It really is a relationship story between the human, played by Megan Caulfield, and Astrid, the machine, played by Anne-Marie Crouch. And although Astrid's voice is a voiceover, I was very determined to have Anne-Marie on set with Megan, so that they would have that relationship. They'd be able to look each other in the eyes and, just kind of bounce off each other.
And that was interesting too, because I was curious as to how that was going to work, how Megan would interact with a machine that, obviously the voice is going to be put in later. So it was cool to see Anne-Marie show up on set and they actually read the lines to each other. And I was like, that's brilliant. And I felt like an idiot for not even thinking of that.
Well,
so it's cool.
Another kind of part of it is that Astrid is an AI and just learning. So it's almost having the newbie at work where you're training them. And so they do kind of build that teacher-student relationship as well. And we almost forget that Astrid is a machine, but then we're reminded. And hopefully that gives people goosebumps.
Yeah, it was really cool to watch it, unfold on set as it was happening. And speaking of on set, we filmed this around end of August. I want to say is the right time frame, like late August, early September. How is it with dealing with the COVID protocols? Because you ran what I felt like was a safe set, and it was a smaller set, but still, you followed proper protocols and everything like that. So, how was the dealing with the pandemic protocols like when it comes to making Astrid?
Well, thank you for saying it was a safe set. We did do a lot of preparation. We did a lot of studying. Film Florida was helpful because they brought out guidelines of how to keep a set COVID safe. The number one thing was to keep the crew as small as possible and also keep the cast as small as possible. So like I said, really, we only had one actress in front of the camera. So that cut down on possible, spread or, people being close to each other for a long time because you're on set for a long time. And we just followed the CDC guidelines. We didn't keep anyone on set for too long, and it worked out. Yeah. The main thing was listening to everybody, being aware of their concerns and acting on them. So our excellent DP, Kevin Almodovar, he was very conscious, COVID conscious as well. And that's one reason why I was very happy to work with him. And we kind of made sure that we were both comfortable with what we were doing as far as wearing masks, gloves, disinfecting everything, making sure the equipment was clean, and so on and so on.
And what I love about our film community is you see a lot of faces helping out other people. You, for example, you helped me out with the Parker syndrome, so I was more than happy to help you out with your film. You see Kevin works on a lot of sets. You have Teens Blackburn, Brandon Perdue. You see so many names come up throughout several projects. So I think that speaks volumes to the community that we've built up here on the Gulf Coast.
It is amazing. And there are other places, in Florida is pretty good. There's a good community in Central Florida, for example, and down in Miami as well. But there are other states that don't have that, especially the bigger cities where it's more dog eat dog. And I think we create more quality product and we have more fun by working together. It's funny how that works, isn't it?
It's interesting because a lot of people have that mindset, well, I don't want to help others because it could hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
But really, if you help others, and I'll use myself for an example. I haven't been on a ton of film sets, but when the opportunity comes, I do it because I get to help out other people, and I also get to learn from other people. I've learned a lot just from watching Kevin work. How he moves the camera and picking his brain when it comes to how he visualizes everything, and then working with you and several others, you can really help each other or you can help yourself by helping each other, is what I should say. But a lot of people don't have that mindset, unfortunately.
Right. Well, Kevin loves to teach as well, to kind of explain what he's doing, and I love to train people as well. So having that kind of mindset when you go in, how can I help other people without being condescending? Just, this is why I'm doing this thing. This is what they call apple boxes. This is jargon, So I think that's a good attitude to go in with, rather than I'm going to keep my secrets to myself and no one else can know.
I've just never understood that personally. And you can learn a lot just even by being on set. Even if you're a PA, and I tell people, if you have the opportunity to go on a set, you should do it, just because you can learn a lot from watching other people do what they do.
Well, they need to come on one of my sets because I'll put them to work. Anyone just sitting in a corner, come here, you need to do something.
Yeah, but that's the best way to learn, though, is by doing it. And I think, film schools are great. I think online courses are great, but there's nothing quite like the on-the-job training you get from actually doing it.
Exactly.
When we filmed the Parker syndrome, I learned a lot from picking Steve Wise's brain about everything. But a lot of what I learned also was the first day that we got on set, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. But thankfully, having like a Steve or a Kevin, who's been there before and know what to do, I learned a lot from those two, and you and several other people from here in the community. So I'll forever be appreciative of that, and I hope to continue to learn and continue to help out.
Well, you rocked it when you directed the Parker syndrome. You need to make more.
Well, I've mentioned this briefly on previous episodes, but I do have another script that I'm working on that I hope to. I've still got to tweak the ending a little bit, but I think it's just about ready for actual shooting, and I hope to do it a little bit later on in the year, maybe like end of summer, early fall. So, and we were talking about this earlier too. It's good to see other projects that are coming out, because this area seemed dormant for quite a while after COVID hit. And I know we were doing some online Zoom meetings about like just filmmaker meet and greets, or they might have been roundtables on specific topics, but it's good to see that work is out there again.
Definitely, yes. And, myself and colleagues, we're not having to travel so far. we can actually work around this area instead of having to go to Texas or Timbuktu to make a movie. We'd rather do them here.
Yeah, and Timbuktu is a long way to go from here.
the gas mileage. Oh my goodness.
Oh man. So speaking of work, you've also been working on some other things as well. I know you're working on the Referral, which we did
Yes.
early in 2020. I know that seems like, I mentioned early 2020, pre-COVID seems like another lifetime. And then you've also been helping produce Zombeez. So how have those projects been coming along?
Yeah. So the Referral was a lot of fun to film. Again, we did it locally. We did it in Fort Walton Beach and Destin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about a hitman who falls in love with his target. It's a short film. It has a lot of cool people in it. Mr. Derek Diamond makes an appearance, for example.
The back left corner of the screen, you might see me somewhere.
Blink and you'll miss him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the director, he moved out of town, and the film sat for a while due to COVID. So finally we were able to clean it up, finish it up, and we're almost at picture lock. So then I'll send it to the composer. The composer will put some music together, and then Bob's your uncle. It'll all be done.
And you're also working on Zombeez as well.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm producing a feature film. Zombeez is about these mutant bees that attack a small beach town. And it's got a lot of humor in it. It's like a B movie you might see on the Sci-Fi Channel. But what I love about it is it's all local. We are the furthest away people that we're using are a couple of, basically our DP is from Georgia. But that's about it. Everyone else is from Northwest Florida or thereabouts. And we've been just doing a lot of pre-production, getting everything ready, doing kind of proof of concept teaser trailer. And finally, we're getting to film the bulk of it in May, which is pretty exciting.
No, it's fantastic. And I talked with Alicia on the show a few weeks ago, and it sounds like a really fun concept to be a part of. As soon as I saw the title and read briefly what it was about, I'm like, I'm all in. Because I'm like you, I enjoy the, kind of the B quality movies. Like there's a certain charm that they have that you can't really get with any other type of film.
Exactly. They're just so fun and relaxing to watch. You want them to be a bit silly.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the entertainment factor. But there's a serious relationship situation in the film, so you do care about the characters, and it's just been fun to work with the local actors like Teens you mentioned earlier, who can really bring it to this story and react to those bees coming at them.
I can't wait to see it. It's going to be so much fun. Talk with me a little bit about, you mentioned you're producing Zombeez. A lot of people may not know what exactly a producer does. You see the title all the time in movies, but a lot of people don't know about that side of the industry. What goes into the role of a producer, and what specifically are you doing as a producer with Zombeez?
There's different kinds of producers, but if someone asks me what a producer does, I say that he or she makes sure everything comes together to make the movie. So are the actors ready on set? Is the crew ready? Do we have the footage that we need? Do we have the effects guy to blow smoke on us? And, can we get everyone together? So really, I think that is the producer's responsibility. You've got a hands-on producer like me who will be on the set, making sure everything's going smoothly and just helping out wherever I can. And then there's a more hands-off producer who is, not necessarily on set. Maybe he's working on casting, so we might be halfway through the movie. We need to find another actor. The producer's away making phone calls with a casting director, trying to make that happen, securing whatever we need for the film. But yeah, it's the logistics. It's like I describe it as being an office boy with a walkie-talkie. Because I do all the paperwork and I do the, make sure that the money goes in the right directions. and just make sure that film gets made. I've met so many filmmakers who wanted to make a movie or had a great idea, but they just couldn't make that final step to get the film made. So I'm all about, helping that happen, even if it's just by encouraging people and motivating them and say, this can be done. I have a day job, I have bills to pay, but still I can do this. So hopefully that encourages other people to do it too.
Well, it is encouraging to see someone who can balance out because working on a film is like a second job. If you're doing an indie film, even if it's a short, it is a second job. So it is encouraging to see other people who can do it while also balancing the normal life, like the day job, paying the bills, family things, all that type of stuff. So it is encouraging. I will definitely say that as someone who's been on that side of it, it is very encouraging.
Well, it's important to find a balance. And as someone who lives, eats, and sleeps movies, I'll wake up, I'll probably have a movie on in the background while I'm working straight away. I also have to find, I have to spend time with friends. I have to, go walk the dog. I have to do normal life things. It's not just about making those movies. Although I hope that the things that I make help other people to relax and take their minds off their work. So it's a good circle to be in.
Well, and that's one of the more positive things I think that came out of 2020 was the increased awareness of mental health. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that's very important, regardless of whether you're a filmmaker or what career you're in. You've got to find the balance. Otherwise, you're just going to drive yourself crazy.
Definitely. And the social aspect of filmmaking is so important. I'm a writer as well, and that's very solitary. And I hate that I can't just go down the pub. I have to finish my script or novel or whatever. So when I get on a set with friends or even new people and we work through the problems and we make a movie, it just kind of connects you very closely with other people. So that's kept me doing it for a long time.
It's ironic to say because I don't consider myself to be a very sociable person. The collaboration is my favorite aspect of filmmaking. It's working with other people and picking their brain, learning from them, possibly teaching them some things that I might know. And seeing everyone come together for the common goal, that might have different backgrounds from different, states or even different countries, but all coming together for one goal. And I think that's really inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen people who have very little English, for example, but they know how to throw up a light. They know that we're going for a particular framing and they can work a set. I have a friend who worked on South American movies. He didn't speak a word of Spanish, but he was able to jump in there and just help out with the camera department. So there's the language of film. It's not quite the language of love, but it's the language of film love. So, that's universal, which is good.
That's fantastic. But as we start to wrap up here, I always like to end the interviews with this. What is one piece of advice that you could give to an aspiring filmmaker?
Just to make something, whether you have a DSLR camera or a smartphone, just make a short film. I wouldn't jump into a feature straight away because that's a big deal. But yeah, just make something, because the more you make, the more films you make, the better. And it's, again, I've met people who want to do it and they never take that leap. I teach acting as well. And I remember teaching a lady who was in her late 70s, early 80s. And she said, this is the first time I've ever done acting and I love it. I wish I'd done it before. And I wouldn't want anyone to be in that situation where they've waited all their life. They waited that long to follow a passion. So yeah, grab a camera and make something and show it to people. And don't be scared.
Yeah, I love that at the end, don't be scared, because half the fun is learning through mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Even with this podcast, I've made so many mistakes with it, but it's a learning opportunity, and it's really the only way that you can learn. And sometimes through mistakes are the best way to learn.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. My first films are not perfect, but I learned so much by making them that now I can make features and be confident about what I do and helping other people.
And that's fantastic. Last question. Do you have any website or social media that you'd like to plug so the viewers and listeners can follow you?
I do have my Facebook page, Nick Smith Productions, where I throw up a whole bunch of random things. The main place I would ask people to visit is the Zombeez page on Facebook, because you can follow how the movie's coming together. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of silly kind of B cartoons on there. And also, we let people know what we need. So when we're looking for crew, actors, locations, that kind of thing, you can see what we need, and we'd love to have you involved.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, and you can watch Ask Astrid at the Pensacon Short Film Festival, which Pensacon takes place May 21st through 23rd. So visit pensacon.com for more information for that. Nick, thank you for taking the time to do this interview, and thank you for the opportunity to work on Ask Astrid.
It's a real pleasure. Thanks for all your help, Derek.
Thanks again to Nick Smith for coming on the show to talk about his film Ask Astrid, and congrats to him once again for it being accepted into the Pensacon Short Film Festival. It was great being able to help out with it. I was very grateful that he asked me to be a part of his project, and can't wait to work with him again in the future. And also thanks again to those who tuned in to my impromptu live show this past week with me giving my 2021 Oscars ceremony reactions. For next week's show, Pensacon Month continues here on the podcast as I chat with filmmaker Eileen Sheedy about her film The Legend of Stella, which was also accepted into the Pensacon Short Film Festival. And I'll also be talking about video game adaptations, which has been a source of, I won't say controversy, but it's a very divided topic when it comes to fans of video games as well as film. I thought with the new Mortal Kombat movie coming out, as well as the conversation with Eileen, it would be a fun chat. So be on the lookout for a post on social media about some of your favorite video game adaptations, because that'll be a really fun discussion here on next week's show. But until then, you can check out past episodes on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, anywhere you get your podcast for free. Just search for The Derek Diamond Experience. You can also find the shows on YouTube. Just search for Derek Diamond, and you can find the video versions of the show there. You can also follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at DDiamondPodcast. I'm also on Patreon at patreon.com/DDiamondPodcast. And of course, thank you to my close friends, the Unicorn Wranglers, for providing the theme music for the podcast. You can check out all their music on Apple Music, Google Play, and Spotify. That's going to do it for this week's show. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a safe and fun weekend. Thank you for tuning in to another awesome episode of the Derek Diamond Experience. I am your host, Derek Diamond, and we'll see you guys back here next Thursday.